Imagine a prediction market that handles $12 billion of trades in 1 year. Sports every night, elections every 2 years, inflation, weather, awards, court decisions, and breaking news in between. 12 billion sounds like casino money. But the platform does not keep 12 billion. It does not even keep the losing side of each prediction. In our illustrative model, the exchange collects $182 million of gross revenue. After liquidity, technology, customer acquisition, surveillance, lawyers, regulators, tax, and reinvestment. The distributable owner's cut is $14 million. That is roughly 12 cents for every $100 traded. This is not a forecast for Kalshi or Polymarket. Their private cost structures are not public. It is one auditable model for a mature United States platform, built from public fee mechanics and clearly labeled editorial assumptions. The mystery is not why people make predictions. People have always argued about tomorrow. The mystery is how an owner turns those arguments into a trusted, liquid exchange, and how little of the headline volume may survive. Start with a contract. Will a team win tonight? A yes contract might trade at 63 cents. If yes wins, it settles at $1. If no wins, it settles at 0. The price can be read as a market probability near 63%, although fees, thin liquidity, and trader preferences can distort that number. For one side to buy yes, another participant must supply the opposite exposure. The platform holds collateral, matches orders, publishes prices, applies the rules, and settles the result. That distinction matters. A sportsbook usually writes odds and takes wagers against its own book. A prediction exchange says participants trade with other participants. The exchange charges for access and execution. So the owner's inventory is not risk on one team. It is a catalog of resolvable questions. Each question needs exact wording, an opening time, a closing time, eligible traders, position limits, and an objective source of truth. Will it rain? Is not enough. Which weather station? How much rain? During which hours? What if the station fails? A badly written market creates customer disputes. A controversial settlement can destroy trust faster than any advertising campaign can rebuild it. The owner is therefore selling three things at once: a contract people want, a market they can enter and exit, and a promise that $1 will be settled according to rules written before the outcome. Only one of those things produces the obvious revenue line. Public fee schedules show why 1% of volume is often too simple. Polymarket's international documentation says takers pay fees in selected categories while makers pay 0. Its formula multiplies contract count by a category parameter and by price times 1 minus price. That last term creates a curve. A contract near 50 cents produces the largest fee in dollars. Near 1 cent or 99 cents, the fee becomes smaller. The published category parameter also varies. As of our research lock, Polymarket listed different parameters for sports, politics, economics, crypto, and other categories. It listed geopolitical and world event markets as fee-free. In enabled categories, part of collected fees can be returned to makers as rebates. Kalshi also publishes a fee schedule with price-sensitive formulas, category-specific terms, and promotions that can change. Here is the important owner lesson. Volume is not one uniform pile. $1 billion of fee-free volume creates attention and data, but no direct trading fee. $1 billion concentrated near uncertain 50-50 prices can monetize differently from $1 billion in near-certain contracts. And a maker rebate may send part of the collected fee straight back out. Our base model assumes $12 billion of annual matched notional and a blended gross fee yield of 1.45%. That produces $174 million of trading fees. We add $8 million of assumed data and exchange service revenue for a total of $182 million. Every number in that paragraph is an editorial assumption except the arithmetic. It is not Kalshi revenue, not polymarket revenue, and not an industry average. But even if the fee line is plausible, customers will not pay it unless someone is waiting on the other side. Open a beautiful market with no resting orders. The yes side displays 35 cents. The cheapest seller wants 48. A customer who buys and immediately sells can lose 13 cents before any platform fee. That spread makes the product feel broken. Liquidity is the shelf inventory of an exchange. Market makers continuously post yes and no prices, hoping to earn the gap between buys and sells. They are not guaranteed profit. News can move the true probability while they hold the wrong inventory. At settlement, remaining positions become either $1 or 0. And the market maker's spread is not automatically platform revenue. It is compensation for supplying capital and accepting risk. The platform may have to pay for that service. Kalshi publicly describes retail liquidity rewards, designated market maker arrangements, and auctions in which liquidity providers state the minimum incentive required to quote named markets. Polymarket describes maker rebates funded by taker fees. This produces the first major leak in our waterfall. We assume $25 million a year for liquidity incentives and maker rebates. We assume another $13 million for clearing, payments, market data, and variable infrastructure. $182 million of gross revenue becomes $144 million after direct market costs. Could the owner provide its own liquidity? Potentially, through a properly separated and regulated affiliate or treasury program. But that does not create free money. The capital can lose. Conflicts must be controlled. Other traders need confidence that the venue does not give its own desk an unfair look at orders. The healthiest flywheel is external. More traders attract more makers. More makers tighten spreads. Better prices attract more traders. The hardest moment is the beginning, when every side is waiting for the other side to arrive. That is why the category mix matters. Election markets are spectacular customer acquisition. They produce probability charts that television networks can quote every day. In 2024, the legal battle over United States election contracts pushed Kalshi into national attention. Polymarket became a constant reference point during the presidential race. But elections are seasonal. A platform cannot build a daily habit around one presidential result every 4 years. Sports supplies repetition. Games occur every day. Outcomes resolve quickly. Customers can recycle collateral. The same user can return tomorrow, then again next weekend. That frequency helps explain why sports became economically central. A 2026 KPMG overview cited reporting that 89% of Kalshi's 25 fee revenue came from sports. That figure is reported context, not an audited Kalshi filing, but the strategic logic is clear. Sports also creates the sharpest classification fight. States say contracts on games, spreads, and player performance look and behave like sports wagers. The CFTC argues that event contracts listed on federally registered designated contract markets fall under federal derivatives jurisdiction. In June 2026, that conflict was explicit when the CFTC sued New Mexico after the state pursued Kalshi under gaming law. This is not a historical footnote. It is current operating risk. ADI Predict Street shows that the same product can choose a very different legal home. The new platform says it launched around the 26 FIFA World Cup, works with Fanatics markets for a dedicated World Cup experience, and operates as a betting intermediary licensed by the Gibraltar Gambling Commissioner. Its public FAQ describes a peer-to-peer order book, external market makers, USDC settlement, and a small commission on each trade. In other words, the trading mechanism resembles an exchange, while the license explicitly sits inside a gambling framework. If the platform is treated as a financial exchange, it faces federal market rules, surveillance, and derivatives compliance. If important products are treated as gambling, it may face state-by-state licenses, gaming taxes, a higher age threshold, and different advertising restrictions. The business model can change without one line of software changing. A market is a network business with a brutal acquisition problem. The first advertisement must attract a trader. Then the platform needs an opposing trader, sufficient collateral, and a market maker. A sign-up who never deposits adds no liquidity. A depositor who trades once during an election may not return. A bonus hunter can cost more than the fees he generates. This is why headline sponsorships, referral bonuses, media integrations, and promotions are not decoration. They are attempts to assemble both sides of the order book at the same time. Our base model assigns $34 million to marketing and customer incentives. That is an assumption. We do not know either major platform's true customer acquisition cost. The useful metric is not downloads. It is fee contribution after incentives. How much gross fee does a customer generate, minus bonuses, payment cost, support, and the liquidity subsidy needed to make those trades possible? Sports users may trade frequently but demand constant promotion. Election users may arrive cheaply through news coverage but disappear after settlement. Professional traders improve prices but negotiate fees and rebates. The ideal customer is not simply active. The ideal customer adds durable volume without requiring an equal dollar of subsidy. Even that customer becomes expensive when the market topic creates integrity risk. Prediction markets reward information. That is the point. But what happens when a trader does not merely understand the event? He controls it, works inside it, or sees the result before everyone else. In February 26, the CFTC described two Kalshi enforcement examples. A political candidate traded on his own candidacy. In another case, a YouTube editor likely knew video content before publication and made highly successful trades. Kalshi imposed disgorgement, penalties, and suspensions. The uncomfortable paradox is that an insider can make the displayed probability more accurate while making the market less fair. An owner therefore needs identity checks, account monitoring, employment and affiliation screening, suspicious trade detection, investigation staff, evidence retention, and referrals to authorities. Associated Press reported in June 6 that Kalshi was adding employment screening for high-risk markets and said it had blocked at least 100 potential insider trades. Those counts are company statements reported by AP, not our independent audit. Then there is age. Kalshi's sign-up material requires users to be at least 18. In 2026, the NBA and PGA Tour called for prediction markets to raise the threshold to 21, closer to many sportsbooks and casinos. Kalshi argued that adults can trade equities and risky options at 18 and announced additional controls intended to keep minors out. For the owner, this means more than a checkbox. Age verification, device signals, deposit controls, responsible use monitoring, customer support, and marketing restrictions all cost money. Our model assigns $19 million to compliance, surveillance, legal, and regulatory work. Cutting that line makes EBITDA look better. It can also make the entire venue untrustworthy or unlawful. The answer depends partly on what feature you emphasize. The financial market case is strong when contracts hedge a real exposure, prices aggregate dispersed information, participants trade with each other, and a regulated exchange enforces transparent rules. A farmer can care about weather. A media company can care about an election. A business can care about inflation or a government shutdown. A live probability can contain information that a poll or pundit does not. The gambling case is strong when the product centers on entertainment, parlays, player props, and rapid repeat betting by customers with no underlying risk to hedge. The interface can feel like a sportsbook, even if the legal instrument is called a derivative. Peer-to-peer matching does not automatically remove gambling behavior. Federal registration does not automatically answer every consumer protection question. And calling every customer an investor does not change why that customer opened the app. For an owner, the debate is not solved with branding. It appears in product selection, age limits, advertising, tax, market surveillance, state lawsuits, federal rulemaking, and the cost of capital. The most valuable platform may be the one that can list the most compelling legal markets. The most fragile platform may be the one whose economics depend on a category regulators later remove. Now, we can finish the waterfall. Begin with our $12 billion of annual matched notional. At a modeled 1.45% blended fee yield, trading fees are $174 million. Add $8 million of other assumed revenue, $182 million gross. Liquidity incentives, maker rebates, clearing, payments, and variable infrastructure remove $38 million. Net revenue is $144 million. Then come the costs that make the venue exist. $46 million for product, engineering, and operations payroll. $34 million for marketing and customer incentives. $19 million for compliance, surveillance, legal, and regulatory work. $11 million for fixed cloud, security, and data. And $9 million for administration and insurance. That leaves $25 million of platform EBITDA. After $5 million of assumed cash taxes and $6 million of required product and regulatory reinvestment, $14 million is distributable owner cash. In a weak case, volume reaches only $5 billion. The blended fee yield is lower, and the platform loses $69 million before financing. In a strong case, $22 billion of volume, better monetization, and operating leverage produce $91 million of modeled owner cash. The biggest sensitivity is not whether one team wins. It is whether enough people trade, whether the order book remains liquid, and whether the highest frequency contracts remain legal. Kalshi and Polymarket prove that prediction markets can become enormous cultural and financial platforms. They do not prove that every dollar of volume is valuable, or that a private valuation is cash an owner can withdraw. Owning a prediction market means owning a machine that turns disagreement into prices. The fee meter is the easy part. The real business is paying enough for liquidity, trust, and permission that customers keep returning, without paying so much that the owner's cut disappears.